We've been talking about a story in The Athletic written by Anthony Slater, Marcus Thompson, and Sam Amick, triple byline. We're going to have Sam Amick on from The Athletic at 2:30 talking about this article. And the article basically was talking about how, this could be it. That Bob Myers, without a contract extension, he could be gone. I mean, it seems plausible. Not a long shot, not crazy. And Slater and Amick and Thompson, they said one of the sentences was, this summer is trending toward the Warriors' culmination. In other words, of the team that, and maybe franchises we know it. So with all that said, and it's so easy for everybody to say, and Goo, you're saying it, just pay Bob Myers. Just pay Bob Myers. Pay Bob Myers. Okay. Pay him the most. Blank check. Okay. Joe Lacob is a ruthless businessman. All right?
Damn.
And you may look at it as though, well, Myers is the architect of this legacy, 4 championships. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Joe Lacob will clearly say to Bob Myers, Steph was here before you. So if you're going to try to minimize a guy's value or argue for your side of the equation, the bottom line is the biggest factor in this organization you weren't even here for. So, again, I'm playing the role of Joe Lacob. Here's the other thing. We think Joe Lacob is not a patient man. He's very impatient. And everything I've heard about him in a working environment is he's very driven and he's really into winning to the point where he really doesn't like excuses as to why they don't and this, that, and the other thing. Not unlike a lot of... Okay. 4 years ago, again, I'm playing devil's advocate. They were 15-50. All right. Were there reasons? Of course there were reasons. The following year, they were 39-33. Didn't make the playoffs. Lost 2 play-in games.
Oh, my gosh. I'll never.
Okay, so they don't make the playoffs for 2 years in a row. Okay, now they go in to last year. And what I can tell you is most of the people in the organization and even some players didn't believe. Last year's title kind of caught the franchise by surprise. It was the gravy one. It's not that they thought they were done winning titles, but I believe they thought they would have a better chance to win it this year than last year. And I think they were kind of surprised. Okay, but they won it. Boom. And number 4 for Bob Myers. Well, if you're in that organization day after day and you're working with people, you get to know them and you know who we get along with, who we don't. We know what decision he made, what decision we should have made that he wanted to push, all that kind of stuff.
All right.
And you're 23-24. Now you're 23-24. You missed the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years.
I remember.
And now you're 23-24. And maybe if you're Joe Lacob, you're like, you see, because you're inside, we're not going to be able to turn this around. Well, how do you know, Joe? Because I've been owning this team for 12 years. And last year, while it surprised us, I could see we had a shot. This year, it's just nothing's going right. Guys aren't locked in like they used to. I don't think we'll get... Okay. So then why would you make Bob Myers the highest paid GM/president in the league if the last 4 years, believe it or not, you're not that crazy about? Because you're Joe Lacob. 1 title in 4 years. And I'm saying this year they don't win it.
Okay.
Which is, a stretch. But
because I got you.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Bring it on. How you describe Joe Lacob, I love, and that's how I want my owner to be. And if you're correct, I don't feel like there was any move that Bob made solo dolo. So if you talk to me about the miscomings or the misfortunes or a mistake here or there, the young guys haven't panned out, there is not an ounce of my being that believes Lacob looks at it like it was Bob's fault. It was us together. And the 2 years you talk about, yeah, you're right. The 15-50, Steph got hurt, extenuating circumstances. But the fact that they came back last year and won it all supersedes those 2 years of mediocrity. That's me. And the fact that you won it last year and the year before you won it, Steph went ham when they lost to Memphis in the play-in game at home, did score in overtime, but averaged 32 points a game. That tells me we still got the big five, and that's Looney, Wiggins, and Dre, Clay, and Steph. So with that, now you're boiling down, or you're trying to tell me, Steiny, okay, the reason we're not going to win it this year is because Otto Porter Jr. wasn't retained. The reason we're not going to win it is because Gary Payton II is not here, and both those dudes are they're done. My thing is, I feel like it's so easy for your argument that you make to play advocate because you're saying this, and it don't look good right now, and it wasn't Miss McMillan that wrote in the meantime is another author. But right now, you're writing it off. I still think they got action.
What if Lacob's starting to write it off? Let me finish this one.
Joe Lacob, if you are who I think you are, I'm not saying nothing about welfare. I'm not saying anything about handouts. My umpteen years on this earth, Bob Myers has earned. Forget what jumps off and culminates in this season. He has earned that right to be, if it's about chicken, the highest paid exec.
Well,
now let me finish. One more. I got you. You got kids. I got kids. FOE. Shout out G Nut. Family over everything. If it's about I want my son or sons to be right next to me and work with me in my business and my baby that I got booed at on retirement night with Chris Mullin, and I've turned it into this machine. I get why Bob doesn't have a contract. But if it's because you think he's not worth that, that's where I have a problem. And karma is a no. You know what, Steiny? If he, that's too cutthroat. Because that's your right-hand man. And I know you got four and 8.
Figure.
And you should have 6.
How do you think Joe Lacob ended up with the Warriors? How did he beat out Larry Ellison? Because he got him. He got him.
Right.
He did whatever he had to do.
Not
you know
cheat,
why?
Though, right.
Because he's a killer.
Right.
I don't understand. I don't understand what you don't get about that.
I wish you would break that down. Steiny, what do you mean? What shortcuts did he take?
There's no shortcuts. In fact, it was long cuts. He had a strategy to get the Warriors. Okay. It involved certain things. One was building a relationship with Chris Cohen and his wife.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going into it. But I'm going to use an argument against you. You just said, Steiny, I can't believe that it's because maybe Myers has made some mistakes because we're a team and we do that together. And that's why Joe Lacob might say, well, Bob, I'm not going to make you the highest paid GM right now because we're making our decisions as a team, and you know that. You hit on Peyton II, but hey, you know what, Bob? I mean, Moody's not doing well. I'm just saying. But
what about
stop thinking you can't make the argument because you can.
But what about the credit? If it's really about that, what about the parade we just had that nobody saw? You and I thought they couldn't even do it again. What about that? We're not even a year removed from the parade.
Well,
that should be positives, though, Steiny.
What? They're 23 and 24.
Right. But the residue from the chip that we just got.
I was just telling you all about how Joe Lacob's a killer. That's last year. He expects a standard that might be unreasonable, maybe.
Okay.
Or that's really hard to reach.
Let me rebuttal with this. And this is, I'm going down a different street.
Let me make a clarification here for everybody who just might have caught us. Yeah. I'm playing devil's advocate right now. I'm playing the role of Joe Lacob as to why, if it's an issue of just making the highest paid, well, I'll present the side of Joe Lacob saying, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't be the highest paid. That's what I'm doing here today. All you.
Okay. Is there anybody you think, forget the chip last year, is there anybody you think is walking around that loves basketball that thought after 47 games the Warriors would be 23 and 24? And the reason I bring that up to you is I feel like you think that is more the norm. I feel like you think that with the guys' age and all, everything on the table, I'm starting to think, Steiny, you feel like that's more who they are than the team that won the championship last year.
It is. Because they're 23 and 24, and the team
that normally doesn't happen.
The team is entirely different. And here's the other thing. And again, like, I'm not saying they can't pick it up.
Right.
But none of the starting five have played as well as last year. They just haven't. If that's a championship hangover, if they can flick the switch, that's their chance. You're 47. And here's the other thing. I'm going to say this. Don't you dare try to blow smoke up my you-know-what and say, oh, it's a big game tonight. Big game. And then they win the game and say, oh, yeah, we're back.
They did that on Christmas. They punked Memphis on Christmas.
I'll believe they're not a 500 team when they're not a 500 team, which means essentially they're going to have to rip off 7 of 9 at some point.
I agree.
Okay.
And they're not going to win the chip in 2 games. If they get hot and win 3 in a row, I ain't coming here like, oh, I'm right. No, this is about, can you get Wiggins back right? Can you get anything? Well, Kuminga, he's getting more playtime. Can you get anything from James? Forget James.
Who cares about Wiseman?
I want whoever the Warriors play in the offs, they're 10th now. And I'm telling you, I go to bed and wake up thinking, oh, it's playoffs for sure. On a bad day in the wrong concoction, I'm looking at 10th seed like, what if it goes to 13? Like, I want to shake the team. Wake up. You've used your mulligans. So, with that said, Denver and Mike Malone do not want to see the Warriors 4 out of 7. I know Memphis doesn't want to see the Warriors in that pedigree 4 out of 7. Let
me tell you something.
If
the Warriors go 41 and 41, all right, and they're in the play-in game and they win,
that's a nightmare.
To get to 7. Yeah. I don't know if they play. They're not going to win. They're not going to win at all.
So you don't think Steph, Clay, and Dre and Wiggins at that point
as a non-home court team?
Well, that's what it looks like it's going to be
every round.
Yeah.
Well, give me a number. What do they end up?
7.
No, they can't win it from 7.
It's not that. Like,
I mean, of course they can. Okay. I must acknowledge that. I don't think they are.
I'm looking at.
Can I do this?
Go ahead.
I haven't done this today. 650.
What you got?
Come on, Steiny. The starters are number 1 in plus minus.
I was going to say
it. Well, then why did you just change the starting lineup?
Well, it's actually appropriate because I think the text specifically denotes a division sign in a minus. So dividing by subtraction, that's how they changed up the starting lineup.
That's a 0.
I like that, E.
From the 650? Yeah. Readers.
They're working on stuff, Steiny. Okay. I don't like that they broke. Kerr had to feel like he had to break this out this early.
You're going to be able to win this argument for a while. You're going to win this argument for a while.
Clippers looked scary last night, and I've been down on them. But in a series, see, I know how to project.
I think it's going to be harder for them to win a series because even though there's no back-to-backs, the games just don't stop coming. They just don't. So I like what I've seen is that they like. I don't think they have the wherewithal to play 2 months of basketball at their highest level. 2 months is a long time. What's the longest stretch they've had this year playing what we think is acceptable Warrior basketball?
Not long. And then there's an injury on top of that. That's throw a monkey. Okay.
Look, it's the only disagreement is you're giving them every benefit of the doubt for being champions.
Just get to the dance.
Well, I must recognize they're champions. Okay. That's why I'm saying, of course, it could happen. But that's
okay.
That's irrelevant this year. I
got to throw this at you on the Steiny meter because the people want to know. Be real, Steiny, and I know you will. If somehow they do win it this year,
I was wrong.
No. Would you be shocked more than you were last year?
Oh, my God, yes.
Oh, my God.
It's not even close.
Becky, I couldn't believe they won it last year.
But you're going to hate why. You're going to hate why.
I'm listening.
Whether you like it or not, and it's okay. It happens. They fell into some real good luck last year. That's the way I interpret it. Does it mean that they're not champions? Okay. Of course not. Of course. Every champion needs good fortune. So what are you talking about, Steiny? What was their good fortune? Well, their good fortune was 18-2.
All right.
Okay?
They earned that.
18-2.
Okay.
They start the season like, you know what? Okay, we know what time it is. We're good. Okay? Then they have a malaise, whatever. They're this, that, and the other.
Draymond gets hurt.
Couple injuries. Yeah. And the break they got was that everybody came back for the playoffs. It just worked out perfectly. Okay, so it works out perfectly. Now, Steph takes 11 days off, playoffs. Draymond took 30 playoffs. Clay's only played half a year, playoffs. Boom, it gels just like old times. They get a couple breaks along the way. Ja Morant, Denver's without Murray.
True.
Does it take away? No, it's just a fact. Boston, it's their first time there. The Warriors won over Boston, to me, because of the pedigree they have. That was championship pedigree
Williams
related.
got hurt for Boston.
Right. So I look at this year. It started out completely different. There are agendas all over the place, and there have been since the beginning of the year.
Okay.
They have not had one stretch of consistency. These champion players, who we know had it in them, they've all dropped a level. Your bench isn't as good. You're going to be starting in the playoffs from a worse position because you're going to have to be on the road all the time. It's just adding up to a hole that is too big to be dug out of, especially if you're not a team that is kind of in your prime.
Okay,